So, hello everyone. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Depends on when this recording is going live. My name is M4iler, and today I want to talk to you about how I stopped worrying and started teaching big companies about cybersecurity. If you want to ask me anything else after the talk, you can contact me as M4iler1 on Twitter, but more on that later. So, first of all, who am I? So, my name is M4iler. I'm a former SOC analyst, now turned security consultant. Basically, I do everything from setting up clients' networks, helping them set up their networks, and running penetration tests and attacks. Before I turned into cybersecurity, I was a translator slash interpreter from English and German. And then for a short time, I used to be an English teacher. In my spare time, I do lockpicking, I hack some boxes, and I like to play video games, but there's not much time in my workday. If you have any more questions, there's my blog, m4iler.cloud, and my Twitter handle is @m4iler1. It's not @m4iler because, embarrassingly enough, I lost my password to that account, but it's still up there. So, first of all, this talk is going to be about how to make you a better trainer. But first, I would like to talk about how I actually fell into trainings because it was somewhat unexpected, but it's turned out for the best, basically. So, first of all, I started out as an English teacher. It was a difficult job, but it was very rewarding because you could see every single child and their progress. I taught English, so that was basically my specialization. And you could see with every passing week, the kids would bring you new stories about, hey, I saw this website and it was amazing because I could understand what they were talking about, or I watched this series in English and it actually made sense. So that was very rewarding. It brought me many benefits. So stable work. I had a lot of free time because usually teaching jobs are just basically 6 hours in total, and then you can go home and prepare for the next day. But once you are actually prepared, you have all the time in the world. However, there are many downsides to teaching. So not everyone can work with children. I found that I was one of those people. Like I like working with children, but when it's in a mandatory institution where the kids have to be there, that's not exactly what I was on about, or not exactly what I enjoyed. But the main takeaways I got from that were patience and the ability to simplify complex topics into something a child would understand. That is very important even now when I'm teaching big corporations and adults how to secure their networks. So going on. So that was my previous job. I was an English teacher, but in 2018, I got flushed out of university. I was studying translation studies, as I said. But in 2018, they flushed me out, and I said, okay, but I need a bachelor's. What am I going to do a bachelor in? At that point, the main reason why they flushed me out of university for translation studies was that I didn't spend enough time studying grammar, linguistics, history, all that necessary stuff. What I was doing was just sitting online, learning how to hack Wi-Fi especially. So when I got flushed, switched majors basically. I said, okay, I'm gonna go into IT. And in 2019, about half a year after I started that university course, I got my OSWP, which is Offensive Security Wireless Professional. Back then, it was still a standalone course, and I just scraped every single penny that I had in my account and brought it to the OSWP, which I did in about a week because for years before, I was practicing collecting all the information I could need. I set up my own Wi Fi lab before I even got that subscription. And basically, I just said, okay, I got the OSWP. I just read through the materials and I said, yeah, let's go for it. Let's try it. What's the worst that could happen? Um, Funnily enough, it was 4 hours during which you have to actually do a report. I did all the tests, all the basically all the tasks that were assigned. Then I found out I didn't keep any screenshots. I was just so excited that I just SSH'd into the machine and immediately started, cracking passwords, intercepting connections, and stuff like that. Everything you have to do in the OSWP exam. But at the last minute, I was done in about an hour. And then I said, oh, I have to write that report. Right, let's get to it. And there was one point which said there must be screenshots. So I had to basically do the exam all over again. So prior preparation prevents poor performance. That's what I learned from my OSWP. About 4 months later, 4 months after I got my OSWP, I applied for a job in a security operations center. Those guys were amazing because during the interview they said, okay, you're studying at a university. What is it? What are you studying? And I said, I'm studying security and IT generally. And they were like, oh, okay. Oh, we see you have your OSWP. Did the company, did the school pay for that? I'm like, no, I'm an English teacher. I just scrape money up for it. And once they saw the OSWP, they actually scratched half the questions. So that is when this cert actually helped me, because my interview was about an hour long with everything included, and then they accepted me. So I started working in SOC. It was shift work, so 24/7. We had late shifts, night shifts, morning shifts, day shifts even. And during that time, I found that some colleagues probably, I don't know, we all had some different skill sets. We were good at something, interested in something different than the other people. So we started our own hacking sessions. Think of it as DEF CON, where it's only one speaker, or GRIMMCon, where it's only one speaker. We usually just take time off work and started showing each other how this attack works, how we can defend against it. So that was fun. In 2020, I moved into a different company as a penetration tester. Same rules applied. So my university basically didn't count for anything, but the OSWP at that point was like, oh, you have your OSWP, nice. So you know X, Y, and Z. That's why, at least for me, certificates are quite important. They might not be for you, and if they're not, it's okay. That's all I have to say. But about 2 or 3 months after I started in this company, one of my bosses looked at my CV and said, "Hey, Mela, you actually, you used to be an English teacher. Would you like to do some more of it?" And I said, "Yeah, why not? We got a project for a client that needs instructions for, a short webinar, let's say a short seminar for them." I'm like, "Okay, how long is it going to be?" And they're like, "Well, 3 to 4 hours if you can manage." That was quite surprising. And if I go over time, you'll see why, because I'm usually used to doing very, very long sessions. So 3 to 7 hours training is not that big of a deal for me, but I will try to keep this concise. So this is how I moved into basically teaching again. So from teacher to IT consultant to teacher again. Okay, now the important bit, that this is what I want every single one of you to remember when your bosses or anyone comes up to you and says, "Hey, do you want to run this class for someone?" Be it your friends, your colleagues, or someone you haven't met in your any time in your life. So the first important part is these people are here for you. You are the one who speaks. So you can take longer breaks. I did one just there. Everyone wants to hear you. If you have questions, of course, they will want to hear the other people's opinions. But generally, these talks are meant for you to get something off your chest, usually training material. You are not talking over others, so you don't need to rush every single word just to make sure somebody doesn't, jump in your way. So there's no need to speak quickly and to be extremely fast about anything. You can take your time. If you run over the time limit, nobody's going to be that mad. If it's being recorded, as I am right now, it's going to be there forever. So you can stay half an hour. Say, okay, everyone who needs to leave can leave, but we'll just chat about general stuff in the meantime. And Also, you can show what you like or enjoy, something you are good at. This is my thing. So teaching people is my thing because I think I can do it, you know, reasonably well. People seem to enjoy the trainings. So I wanted to pass that on so that I can see more people attempting or trying to teach someone something new because I would love to learn. And that's why you're all here as well. Number two, your skills are wanted. If you think you have a topic that you might talk on, but feel like, everybody knows this is basic stuff. Not everyone has all the pieces of knowledge that you have. If they did, they either wouldn't attend or they wouldn't even, there would be no need to teach it. But not everyone has the same skill set. Not everyone has the same experience. So if they don't, you can teach them something. This was actually my first ever talk that I gave. It was at 1 a.m. And it was based around Wi-Fi. So I said, "Hey, do you guys want to hear something about Wi-Fi hacking?" And everyone was like, "Yeah, sure. We haven't done too much Wi-Fi hacking, so let's talk about it." And that is something that I found basically incredible because it was, for me, it was that one skill that's so easy to learn. Everyone knows how to hack Wi-Fi. Wi-Fi is everywhere. Everyone has tried it. But remember that not everyone has the same skill set and the same background as you do. So that is why your skills might be wanted, even though you might feel that what you know is just basic stuff that, everyone knows. Imagine me doing huge air quotes here. But not everyone knows what you know. Okay. This is basically a repetition of the previous. Your experience is unique. You have a unique viewpoint. You have a background that's different from anyone else, basically. And your work experience and your personal experience differ from everyone else's in certain ways. It's not like you are completely different, but every single one of us has something that differentiates us from other people. So use this personal experience and you might get further in life, basically. So, my experience, I was an English teacher. That's why I'm here now. Your experience might be, okay, I used to do system administration for maybe X amount of years. Let me talk about that. You can put a unique spin on every single thing you want to talk about or that you know. And that will make your training so much better because you can have stories. That is what usually counts as the best bonus points in any training, presenting stories. And if you don't have your stories, like you don't have that particular experience, you can talk about experiences or, listen to a podcast where they talk about major hacks. That is what I usually do. Darknet Diaries. I have to thank Darknet Diaries because it brought me across to so many different places and people that usually would have just said, okay, thank you for the training. But once I started talking about what I heard on Darknet Diaries and what I learned from that was the point where they actually started listening and paying attention to me. So that is something that you must remember. If you have a story that is somehow related to what you are teaching, go for it. Just get that across to your audience. And last but not least, you took that one step. I am currently, my hands are shaking right now because it is like the first big con that I have ever done. But I did take that step to basically do something that I have never done before. If you take the step and say, okay, I will run this class, even if it's just for 20 minutes for your colleagues in an informal environment, it's the it's it accounts for like 90% of the entire experience because you were the one who said, okay, I will do it. And I believe that every training you run or every talk that you give will make you a better speaker. Even though the first few you might feel they are rubbish, even then, some people will say, hey, that was great, can't wait for another one. So if you are willing to step up, if this is not too far out of your comfort zone, I say go for it. Just pick a topic that you are enjoying, that you like, and maybe we'll see you at the next GRIMMCon. That would be awesome. Now that we have got the motivational stuff out of the way, I'm going to talk about how to prepare the subject that you are going to talk about. So let's say I pick Wi-Fi. So I want to bring those technical things across, the technical topics, but also I want the audience to basically learn something. And for that, I need to do a certain preparation. The first step, gather information. I need to read all the materials that are available, not all of them if I know something, but I should be able to answer some questions that might be outside of what I'm talking about. Secondly, try, test, verify. If I'm going to talk about something and suddenly it doesn't work, or it's information that's 10 years out of date. Let's say I say, oh, web encryption is used 90% of the time when it's not. That might be something that I need to verify, even though it may be something that I feel I know. So test, verify everything that you're going to talk about, because it's going to make you more comfortable when it actually comes to doing the actual talk. So gather all information available on the subject. If you have solid understanding, it's going to make you feel more at ease, and you won't be as scared to talk, and maybe get out of the comfort zones of, I don't know if I know the answer to this question. Secondly, distill the information that you gathered. You have to take into account that what you might go into a technical deep subject, but if your audience is, let's say, managers or someone who has never touched Wi-Fi before, other than, I put the password in my phone and it works, that is what you need to extract. You need to extract main points that everyone can understand, and from there, you can push them a little bit further each time, and maybe you will get to the exact bottom of it. So you will stop at, packet captures and maybe disassociating Wi-Fi clients, what have you. But you need to start with the main basics, because that will also help you form your presentation itself. And you also can determine what is not needed. My examples here, I have run trainings for developers. And I think that, for example, C-level executives, do they need to know how to install Kali Linux, run a phishing campaign, set up a malicious web server? I don't think they do. I think what C-level executives would take from that talk would be, okay, phishing exists. Here is how it generally works, and here is how we can defend against it. So how to detect a phish. That is much more useful. If you are working with developers, or maybe teaching your colleagues in, let's say, a red team environment, how to run a phishing campaign, do they need to know? Yes, absolutely. They should be familiar with at least the names of the tools and where to find more information in case they need it in the future. So these are the two differences. So know your audience. Knowing your audience will help you skip the chaff, as is described in the presentation, but also it will help you get across to them, or bring your point across to those people much more easily than if you just jumped into it and said, okay, buffer overflow, Mac exploits, let's go for it. And then you realize you're sitting at a board with managers who have no idea what you're talking about. So that is very important. Distill the information, extract main points, and determine what you don't need for that particular audience. Next, once you have distilled your points, you need to prepare a presentation. With this, keeping the presentation as a guide only is very important. You don't want everything written down. Otherwise, you could have written a book and sent it to them via email. But in a presentation, you want that personal touch. So keep the presentation as a guide. Never use it as a full-blown, content of every single thing that you're talking about. It will make you sound more presentable or more relatable. And also you will not need to basically talk as much, or you will need to talk more, but it won't be reading talk. So if I go, walls of text are highly discouraged since too much text can bring the attention away from what you actually want to say. That doesn't sound organic. That sounds very, very scripted. So not everything needs to be written. You're probably familiar with what you're talking about. So why not keep the presentation as tight and as well written but short written as possible, just to have your audience look at something as you are right now, and to remind you of what you maybe want to talk about next. So no walls of text. Keep it simple. Keep it safe. Next, talking engagingly. I have made these mistakes in this talk about 275 times, but short sentences always beat long sentences. It might force you, the feeling of you are being observed by so many people might force you to go into longer sentences just so you are not interrupted by someone. But keep in mind, everyone is there to listen to you. They are not here to actually interrupt you. So you can take short sentences, take a break, say another sentence. Next one, hesitation noises. This is something we were taught at university for translation. If you want to present yourself well, or if you want to talk well so that people like listening to you, you want to eliminate as many and ah sounds as possible. We all have some hesitation words as well. So mine, for example, is so. So you need to keep track of that and maybe record yourself, listen to yourself and say, oh, I said this many O's in this sentence. I said ah 7 different times. That will help you. What also helps is staying on topic, because the more in the familiar territory you are, the better it will sound to the audience. If you start going out on some tangents, you might start to see more hesitation sounds, as I have illustrated now. Fourth point, stories help illustrate. I have said this many times, but all we do in trainings is bring across stories or present a story. And if you can do it engagingly, imagine rewriting a cyber attack or some defense system as a fairy tale. That might help you illustrate your point much better. Ever since I read one book called Cyberjutsu, it has been on my mind every single time. So using the castle analogy for defending a network, that is what always gets me. And demos can show your audience how the stuff actually works. If you say something is easy, you might as well present it. There might be issues, but once you are comfortable speaking and dealing with unforeseen circumstances, you can afford to make some demos. And in case they don't work, nobody's going to bite your head off. Nobody's going to be like, oh, everything went well until that demonstration. That is when I absolutely lost it. So, demos will help you illustrate stuff, especially if you're doing more technical stuff. If you're doing more technical presentations, demos are actually sort of required. Um, but keeping your demos concise, keeping them in the familiar territory even at first, will help you. And preparing those demos as best you can will always get your point across much better. Oh, in closing, beautiful. So I might have a few minutes to tell a few stories. So in closing, this is the takeaway. If you just tuned in, if you missed the first X minutes of my presentation, this is what I want you to take away. First, your experience is unique. You have something that other people don't, even if you don't think so. There is one thing you can teach someone in every single room you are in. Two, your audience is here for you, as you are for me. Um, this means don't be afraid, because everyone is here to listen to you and nobody else. Three, no one knows it all, ties into point one, but I want to reiterate that because no one knows everything you know and more unless you are talking to, your teacher. Number 4, collect information but distill what you know. Distill it to the simplest terms possible and go from there. Build up the presentation as you would if you were explaining it to a 5-year-old, then go to 10-year-old, and then maybe you will get to that point where you have very, very technical details, but determine when to stop. So if you're talking to CEOs, they might have no idea what a computer actually does on the inside. So stop at maybe the 10-year-old level. If you're talking to devs who do this sort of thing all day, every day, you might want to go to university level, bring some demos, show them the low level stuff that you know. Number 5, presentations are a guide, not a reading material for you or for your audience. Presentations should just show you what you need to talk about, and then it's up to you to keep in your mind or keep some notes on the table, but never do a reading voice. Number 6, keep it simple. If you want short sentences, do short sentences. If you need to illustrate something in a longer sentence, make a longer sentence. But keeping it simple is generally better for your audience, and it's better for you because you can organize your thoughts. Number 7, engage with your audience. This is quite difficult, especially if I'm pre-recording a presentation now and you are all sitting here in Discord just sending me different questions. But engaging with your audience in, let's say, a Teams presentation or a Zoom call might be much better. So usually what I do is, if I'm doing some technical demos or practical training, I always say, if you have any issues, interrupt me immediately. That might give your audience some feeling of, okay, this guy's here for us. It's not being pre-recorded. He's just human. But also you can ask your audience questions. Nobody expects questions at a corporate training, and usually it brings out the more talkative ones. And even if nobody raises their hand but one person, it's then much better because even among themselves they will know, oh, this is the guy who knew answer to question X, Y, and Z. This is the one who we want to talk to if this problem arises. We have someone on our staff. So not only will you engage your audience in the way that your trainings will seem better, higher quality, but also you will bring out something that the team already has, but they just didn't know about. Number 8, bring your flair. The flair is so important. You might have a unique spin on your presentations. You might have something that you want to see. For example, I want to see more trainings done interactively with more stories. So that's why I'm here. If I failed or succeeded, that's up to you, but I did my best. But bringing your own personal spin to any training will make it infinitely better than if you are just doing, oh yes, number 1.76, please engage with the audience. Bringing your flair, bringing something you're passionate about will make the training much better. If you do training on topics that you enjoy, or even you just enjoy teaching in general, it will make for a better training than if you are doing something you actually hate or don't want to talk about or don't know anything about. So bringing your flair, knowing where you are most comfortable in, and maybe stepping outside of those comfort zones. Number 9, use stories. Said it so many times. I have some stories if we have time left. I'll have to check OBS for that. But using stories will always stick in a client's mind better. I remember one time when I did training for, company, let's not say the name, and it was just a general chat with the staff. And I said one thing during the presentation. It was on, like, we started discussing NotPetya, and someone asked me, if you were a hacker, would you attack us? So I then turned it into a whole tirade of how NotPetya started, where it was a third-party company that wasn't really involved in any of this. They just did a certain piece of software for the Ukraine. They got hacked, and through them, everyone got hacked. So I said, you supply a product, you supply a service, somebody will want to get either to you or your clients. If you make a lot of money, it might be you who's the target. If you don't make a lot of money but provide to people who have money, your clients might be the target then. And suddenly one of the people on the call unmuted their microphone when I stopped talking about the technical details of NotPetya. And I asked them, like, are you familiar with this? Like, have you heard about NotPetya? One of them unmuted and he was like, yeah, we sort of got hit by that quite hard. And it was amazing because that engaged with the audience. Someone thought to tell me, like, yeah, we got hit with NotPetya. But the last point is have fun. If you feel like like the trainings are draining you, if you don't want to do anything after running a 3-hour training, it's probably not good for you. It might be great for your audience, but first of all, you need to have fun. You need to look forward to those training sessions. So that will make it infinitely better. If you have fun, if you're enjoying yourself while you are teaching, while you're bringing something across to other people, it will be an infinitely better training than if you're talking about something that you personally hate or don't like. Even if you don't like a subject, for example, I don't like iOS, I don't use iOS. But if someone asks me about iOS, I will happily tell them that I don't like them, and I will show them X reasons why. Your experience might differ. You might hate Android. So when someone asks you about Android and if it's whether it's better or worse than Apple, give them your ideas, but keep it fun. So I always find fun in the worst stuff. So when I'm supposed to hate on companies, I always do it with a smile. So yeah, so these are the main takeaways from this presentation. If you want nothing more, take a screenshot of this, or I don't know if the presentations are going to be up later after the GRIMMCon. If not, take a screenshot right now. Oh, it went off. Okay, I'll keep it on a little longer. Done? Good. Last but not least, any questions? This is pre-recorded, so I don't know if I can answer any questions right now. I will try. Wait, I'm listening. The answer is yes. That's about all I can do. My sense of telepathy and time travel are not that established, so any questions, pop them into Discord, or you can contact me at mailer.cloud or on my Twitter, mailer1. I may not know it all, but I'll try to answer as much as I can. I will not have all the answers, trust me. But if I know the answer, I will answer. If I don't know the answer, I might know someone who does. So that's all you need to know. Okay, I don't know how this presentation was long, but let's try stopping the recording now because I need a break and take a glass of water. So enjoy the rest of GRIMMCon. This has been Mela, and let's see you around.